back. I'm sorry that it's been a while since you've seen me. I've been working on this video since the start of the wipe, mostly because of the holidays, multiple sicknesses, and I get a lot of migraines. So finally, this is here. Yay! For qualities or rarity, we're going to have blue, purple, orange, or light yellow. And this is going to be rare, epic, legendary, and unique. For categories, we're going to have weapon, armor, accessory, and instruments. Each ideal container, being lion's head, golden chest, marvelous, etc., have the same drop percentage between all categories of items in the same rarity. However, you're more likely to get certain categorical drops within a rarity due to the quantity of items per category. Essentially, what this is saying is if you have adventure boots, an arming sword, badger pendant, or flute, which are all different categories, each one has the same drop rate chance as the other. Of the categories, you are more likely to get armor simply because there is more armor in the game than anything else. This then means that the only noteworthy percentage when looking at a loot table is the rarity percentage. So just because you're playing high roller, that doesn't mean you're more likely to get a pendant over a piece of armor if each loot table has those items. Some side notes that I made is that you can no longer get unique grade items in normal dungeons, and you cannot get unique grade items on first floor bosses. So keep this in mind when we're looking at future containers. If it says that it's listed, just know that the patched that. This is also important. So if you see anybody in the comments saying, oh, well, this is different from this, point this out to them. Mob category, so if it's a normal, elite, or nightmare, it does impact the items dropped slightly, which means the mobs I listed may include or exclude certain items according to the mob category. Unfortunately, I lacked the foresight to label each mob according to the category, and so some mobs are normal drops and some are elite mob drops in this video. If you want to verify the drops personally, I recommend you look at the wiki yourself. And then I also stopped listing repeats of certain quest items like old cloth. It just got too much for me to type it out. So some of them do drop that near the end. Also, event currency looks like it drops on everything. It's just a really small chance. Around the halfway mark again, I stopped listing event currency just because it just got too tedious. It sounds like they've decided that there is a really, really strong reason to believe that luck is broken right now and not working. It sounds like they may need some help testing luck. So if you guys are interested in doing that, you may be able to. Moving on to the next section. These are ideal containers simply because they have better chances of dropping better gear than other containers. It's just good to know that every time you kill a mob or open a container, the computer rolls a designated amount of times, depending on the type of container, to determine what loot appears or doesn't appear in the container. This means that you could have a super loaded container. You could have a relatively empty container, though never 100% empty, just lacking quantity of items. Sometimes loot tables will roll multiple times, depending on the category. Moving on. Again, this is high roller item drop rates, and I have a key over here and notes right there. I have the map listed for what it's relevant to. Some of them are related to all the maps, and some of them are related to very specific maps, so use the key if you want to do that. Additionally, I noticed that Treasure Hoard did not have percents listed for high roller ruins. However, I checked each percent for a Treasure Hoard's high roller numbers for each other map, and the percents didn't change. So I believe it's safe to assume that these percents are accurate for the time being. Additionally, this is only for categorical gear. Chances for weapon, armor, accessory, and instruments. Kind of what you're looking for when you open these chests. The lion's head does not roll accessories, which are pendants and rings, but you can from the other containers. So when you open up the marvelous chest, you will always get 3 categoricals. So that could be 3 armor, 1 armor, 2 weapons, so on and so forth. Any combination of 3 of those you can get. When it comes to event currency, treasure, utility, and coins, those are the amount of rolls it does, but the X indicates that there is a chance for it rolling nothing. So the minimum you will always get from the marvelous will be 3. Treasure Hoard is special, so just make sure to eye that carefully. I'm going to be moving on to the next section. These chests are better than regular chests, but not as good as ideal chests, so they are our honorable mentions. These are specifically for high roller. For each one, it will be goblin caves, ice caves, ruins, inferno, ice abyss, and crypts. I will say, for the bronze ornate chest, you cannot roll unique and legendary instruments, but for the heavy ornate chest, you can roll unique and legendary instruments. Moving on. Whew. As an important note, all the chests that you see here on the screen will be high roller goblin, ruin, and ice cavern specifically, not all the maps and not all whatevers. You can just pause, look at this, and then I'll be moving on to the next section. This is really important for me to note, and I'm going to say it just so I don't get little angry comments down below of people being like, oh, those numbers aren't accurate. Well, it's because these are general percentages that I did. I kind of averaged them out. I didn't mathematically average these out. I just kind of looked at the numbers and said, this is a general percentage of it. And the reason I did this is because not every container can be found on every map, and doing a percent for every coffin according to the map it's found on would have just drove me crazy. I would have died. And I will say I take no responsibility for you using these as exact numbers for every single coffin for every single map. I mean, if you do that, that's you. I didn't tell you to do that. I will be moving on to the next section. Okay, now this is funny because this is when I started getting really bad migraines while creating this information. I'm saying don't bother kind of to be funny, but I still do bother a little bit with these. I still like opening them up. The corpse with clothes on has a little bit better drop stuff than the nude corpse. When I open it, you can get gloves and small weapons and stuff like that. So there are good drops on these. So they're just not significant like the ones that we've looked at previously. So I still bother just because I'm that type of person who likes to just open every single thing that I see. But if you are not wanting to open up every single thing that you see, these are most likely not relevant to you to not. All right, crates and barrels. I love smashing these open as a barbarian. These are the items that you could get from breaking them open. You will notice that there's a barrel 1 and barrel 2. The difference between the barrels, I don't know, and I didn't want to bother the wiki about this. I do know that the Honey Bliss pear is only listed for barrel 1, and that the Honey Bliss pear is listed to have the exact same drop rate on every single floor for both high roller and normals. If you happen to know the information, just type it down below, and I would love for a knowledgeable passerby to inform us. Moving on to the next section. You can tell that my migraine was really progressing because this is what we have. So all pots have varying chances of dropping utility, coins, treasure, or nothing. Very fun. Woohoo! Moving on to the next section. So mimics have their own unique drop table. Every mimic, however, can drop pants and select weapons and mimic tongue or tooth. Those are the listed weapons that you could get. The rarity of items differs mimic to mimic and chest type, as well as the mimic grade. So normal, elite, or nightmare. Rarity scales with mimic grade, normal being higher chances for lower rarities, and nightmare having higher chances for higher rarities. So the stronger the mimic, the better the gear. Slink Fowl is the unique variant of the mimic. The same item drops as the other mimics with the special chance to drop an item known as Wonderlight. Moving on to the next section. Monsters are listed alphabetically, so if you have a certain monster that you want to learn about, it's alphabetical. Good luck. These monsters, some of them are going to be elite grade, some of them are going to be common grade. Their loot drops are going to slightly vary according to what grade they are. And you may notice it goes yellow, pink, yellow. For each color change, that is a separate loot drop table. Just know that it does roll all of these at least once per color change. Around the halfway mark, you might notice event currency stops getting listed and other stuff. It doesn't mean that they're not dropping it. It just means I'm only putting the meat and potatoes for that mob. I'm going on to the next section. You will notice a trend with mobs. Typically, the weapon they hold correlates to items that they drop. So archers will tend to drop archer-related stuff. Also, I'm just noticing that I don't have that guy's name there. I don't know what he is. I think that's a Frost Skeleton Guardsman that I don't have listed as a name. I apologize. Moving on to the next section. All right, Monsters 3. You can see that we have a special mob here called the Frost Weaver. That is not a typical ice spider. And it has a chance of dropping a Tangle Thread Trouser. I will be going on to the next section. All right, here we have Monsters 4. You can see that for Bullet Slinger, I did not list every single weapon. If you want to know what weapons that Bullet Slinger drops, go to the wiki, look at it yourself. Moving on to the next section. I just noticed this. Some of these are not color coordinated. So just look at the space between them. If there's a space, it's a separate role. I just guess I just didn't notice. So I apologize for that. Moving on to the next section. All right, you can see here that we have two mobs that aren't actually in the game yet, which is a loot goblin and a midnight stag. Yes, that is my face on the loot goblin because I identify as loot goblin. You may pause this, look at this. I will be going on to the next section. Here we have the 7th section of monsters. We have Scarfang, which is a special variant of the Ice Wolf. And then we have, gosh dang it, I don't know what that special slime is called, and I guess I forgot to put it down. Moving on to the next section. 8th monsters. These are the things, and you can look at the things, examine the things, pause to look at things. Moving on to the next section. The first instance of mini bosses. So if you want cloaks, cockatrice, I will say, does not have a 100% chance of dropping a cloak. There is a chance of it rolling as nothing, but there is a decent chance of getting a cloak from a cockatrice. So if you want to farm cloaks, cockatrice is a good pick for you. You can look at the loot tables for the rest, and I will be moving on to the next section. We're just going to deal with the top part being cut off. That's fine. There are some items here that you will want, such as a golden key off of the skeleton champion, among other stuff. Now, we're going to end on bosses. I hope you guys are excited. Bosses. I will say that the bosses have large weapon drop tables, but they are not all the exact same. So if you want to know what the troll drops, go look at it yourself on the wiki. There's just not enough space for me to list everything. As you can see, some of the bosses do have a chance of dropping named weapons. Pause, and I will be moving on to the next section. All right, so here we have Spectral Knight and Skeleton Warlord. These are the last of all the things that we can find stuff on. Skeleton Warlord, he can drop those things. And Spectral Knight, he can drop those things. You may be wondering what these things are to the right. And these are screenshots from the Dark and Darker wiki that I thought were really funny when I was looking into all of this stuff for the video. You guys are the best. So thank you again. And I hope to see you guys again in the future. Bye-bye. Wicker, blah, blah, blah. Categorical. You may know